In the Republic of Moldova, the USA is joining the contention known as the Transnistria War. After an especially horrendous assault, an American trooper gets isolated from his group and ought to hang tight for reinforcement. Yet he chooses to enter the following structure alone. Wearing his hyperspectral imaging goggles, he tracks down a progression of bodies in obscurity that look as though they kicked the bucket frozen. More profound into the structure, the fighter is stunned to track down a clear humanoid ghost that he can't check whether he removes his goggles. All that he sees is being sent to the base. However, before the warrior can request data, the ghost goes through him and in a split second kills him. In the meantime, in the USA imprint, a specialist working for DARPA is gathering parts of Finish, his most recent development, a machine equipped for breaking materials with simply waves. Presently it's at long last gotten done, and Imprint does an extraordinary show for the higher-ups, who quickly request that he begin testing it on people for potential purposes as a weapon. Mark could do without utilizing science to hurt individuals, yet his manager reminds him they work for the public authority, and that is the manner by which things are. Discussing the public authority, orders came from the military requesting that Imprint fly to Moldova to mind some difficulty they're having with the goggles he developed. In a little while, Imprint shows up at the American base in Kai-Nu and meets General Orland and CIA official Fran. Orland shows Imprint the recording of the apparition that the goggles got before the fighter passed on. Imprint's sharp eyes notice something on the screen just before the Phantom shows up, and Orland makes sense of their surveillance cameras have been detecting these things ordinarily over the most recent 3 weeks. At first they thought it was obstruction, however at that point their best warrior kicked the bucket, so clearly there's something different going on. At the point when they did the examination, they found the inside organs were frozen, but their skin was singed and consumed. Over the most recent couple of weeks, they've been finding more bodies that passed on similarly, and their United Moldovan military contact doesn't know anything about it. Young people have been splash painting Slaughter Eritor at kill destinations, the Eritor being a neighborhood fantasy that alludes to the phantoms of war. The CIA believes it's some sort of shrouding innovation, however that doesn't make sense of the fighter's demise. Mark needs a superior glance at these specters prior to concocting a hypothesis, and uncovers he's brought a hyperspectral camera, which is an all the more remarkable rendition of the goggles, and sees further into the range of light. Orland acknowledges to send Imprint with a group of Delta Power administrators into the field that will be searching for one more group that vanished the other day. Mark starts working on introducing the camera on top of a tactical truck, provoking the fighters to prod him for meddling with their weapons. Commander Cabrera, a close buddy of Imprint, promptly reprimands the group and reminds them it was Imprint's kin that made these trucks in any case. Significant Meetings isn't entertained by taking a regular citizen with them and causes Imprint to swear this time his machines will safeguard them better. In a little while, the gathering gets together to see the subtleties of the mission. The other group vanished in a 5-story high-rise, and they lost contact with them yesterday. They'll enter a radical-held region, so they should be prepared to battle. On the off chance that they go over the oddities, they should be killed, yet the need is saving the survivors and getting out. Fran lets them know that the peculiarities are probably going to be troopers in cutting-edge electronic disguise, and doesn't permit Imprint to address her. She's likewise coming to the mission. Imprint's obligation is to remain in the truck and screen the officers Capcom takes care of. The group comes to the structure without issues, and keeping in mind that the initial not many rooms are unfilled, making it more profound inside permits them to track down the 2 troopers and extremists, all dead from similar weird conditions. Cabrera distinguishes a few development on the sensors, and the officers approach a turn tub, shifting it to the side to find Sergeant Comstock concealing under it. Comstock makes sense of the remainder of his group are dead, and they can track down the bodies on the following floor. He's likewise terrified of something he saw. It's extraordinary to swear. The troopers move to the following floor, and in one of the rooms, they track down one of those apparitions. A warrior starts shooting at it, not missing a solitary shot. However, the Phantom doesn't get injured and strolls through the man in a flash, killing him. Then the Phantom leaves the room and goes after the remainder of the group, who additionally take shots at it to no end and start kicking the bucket individually. Mark believes them should return, and when Fran denies since they need more data yet, Imprint brings up they will not get anything right now in any case. The officers are beginning to depend on explosives to assault, and Cabrera orders them to return. The survivors drag anybody that might be harmed and use wires to move through of a window. Yet the Phantom follows them there and keeps on killing anybody it can reach. Eventually, a couple of troopers successfully return to the truck, and the ghost is as yet following them, so Imprint has the opportunity to utilize the hyperspectral camera to record however much he can. The ghost appears to have a humanoid shape. As a matter of fact, it has a full human face too, which befuddles Imprint. Cabrera emerges to go after the Phantom as well, yet his shot is likewise to no end, and he winds up dead as well. Basically, his interruption gives time for the last couple of fighters to leave the structure and enter the vehicle to leave the region at long last. As they drive away, Imprint attempts to get some information about what he saw. He makes sense of he concealed under the tub for a really long time and that he saw the ghost. However, before he can say more, The truck starts shaking and tumbles to the ground. It turns out they're incidentally placed a mined region. Comstick hits his head as he falls and winds up dying. So do the drivers. Mark focuses on recuperating the hyperspectral camera, then, at that point, everybody runs into a neglected plant to be protected, while they attempt to contact the base, albeit the radios aren't functioning admirably. The group starts examining what occurred, at last tolerating that what they saw wasn't innovation however extraordinary. Mark makes sense of the phantom was humanoid, and the manner in which it see him demonstrated it was cognizant. However, he actually doesn't have the foggiest idea what it is. The fighters' all's goggles got obliterated in the accident. However, Imprint offers the hyperspectral camera to actually look at outside the structure. They find there are a lot of phantoms attempting to come after them, yet they can't on the grounds that a circle of iron fillings encompasses the structure and damages them, assuming that they attempt to cross it. This circle is by all accounts going about as a hindrance, and it must have been put by somebody there. At that point, they hear a clamor coming from another room. They take shots at the way to open it, and alarm the regular people in the process, since it ends up being simply a guiltless sets of kin. Sari and Bogdan can't communicate in English. However, Fran communicates in their language and learns they're distant from everyone else in here. In this room, the troopers likewise find a transmission tower, which puts out an immense sign. Everybody inside 20 miles will hear their discussion, including the adversary. However, meetings guides out. This is their main opportunity toward get by. While the fighters attempt to contact the base, Imprint converses with the kin with Fran as his translator. Sari makes sense of it was her dad that put the hindrance around the structure, and she thinks the apparitions are lost spirits caught among life and passing that can't discover a true sense of harmony. Mark needs to know where the dad is to find out more, so Sari leaves Bogdan with the troopers, while she shows Imprint and Fran the area. Sari hasn't come clean with her sibling yet. Their dad kicked the bucket while setting up the hindrance, and Sari needed to drag his body inside. Bogdan simply thinks his father is away searching for help. Mark reviews the body and tracks down a neckband with a clay tile and a guide of Masarov, a locale by the waterway. Sari doesn't have any idea how her father had some awareness of the iron. Yet she realizes it was in Masarov, where the specters started showing up. In a little while, the officers receive a message from the base, affirming they'll send helicopters and tanks to get them at an open square about a portion of a mile from that point at sunrise. The group starts contending in the event that this is smart, since they will not have cover. However, Imprint rapidly thinks of an arrangement. There is a great deal of iron fillings in the production line, so they can utilize it to make bombs that will really harm the specters. He likewise changes the hyperspectral camera to cause it an enormous searchlight that will uncover the specters in the city. They send the guidelines behind such change to the base too. That way their heroes can likewise make a couple of searchlights and show up securely. While everybody works, Sari at last comes clean with Bogdan and gives him their dad's accessory. A couple of seconds after the fact, they hear a commotions outside and utilize the new searchlight to find what's happening. The phantoms have climbed the adjoining building and are bouncing on the electrical cables to get over the obstruction without getting injured. The group quickly prepares to leave, and Sari shows them a substitute exit through the back, yet the apparitions follow them at any rate. Mark holds back nothing them, and now that they're noticeable to everybody, the warriors can take shots at the phantoms with their new iron-filled projectiles. The arrangement is a triumph, and these projectiles cause harm to phantoms, albeit the effect some of the time pushes the fighters back as well. The fighters shoot a couple of additional slugs to make an iron haze that obstructs the way, quickly abandoning the phantoms as they follow Sari's headings to arrive at the open court at long last. The group conceals inside an unwanted transport, and Imprint sees the searchlight is running out of force. This implies they're totally oblivious in regards to any approaching assaults, and they stress when they hear a commotion drawing nearer. Luckily, it's the salvage tanks coming for them, and they've brought their own searchlights. At the point when they actuate them, they uncover every one of the apparitions concealing in the encompassing structures, and they promptly open fire on them. The group needs to leave the transport in a hurry and stow away from the falling trash. This implies they don't get to impart their discoveries to their heroes in time. The fresh debuts leave the tanks and pursue the phantoms with ordinary weapons, which obviously winds up with the greater part of them dead. The phantoms don't just kill the warriors, they assault the tanks also, obliterating the searchlights yet not having the option to travel through the ceramic parts, which Imprint takes note. The group needs to take off, however they can't track down Bogdan. The kid is searching for his father's jewelry, since he incidentally dropped it, and Sari attempts to pursue him. However, before she can contact him, a phantom goes through Bogdan. Mark keeps an eye on the kid and affirms it's past the point of no return, as Fran clutches a lamenting Sari. The phantoms start gathering in the focal point of the area to assemble powers, and briefly the group thoroughly considers it's everything except fortunately the helicopters land in the nick of time. Mark sees the breeze from the helicopter's rotor is making it difficult for the specters to progress, so he snatches every one of the iron explosives he has and breaks them on the ground. The breeze pushes the iron fillings toward the phantoms and fends them off while the group at long last escapes. When the helicopters take off, they notice they aren't returning to the base. This is on the grounds that the base has been compromised, so they're going to an outcast dugout, all things considered. At the point when they glance through the windows at the roads beneath, they notice the specters are spreading all over the place and causing mayhem all around the city. Whenever they show up at the shelter, the watchmen promptly point their weapons at them, yet Fran rapidly communicates in their language to recognize themselves, and the group is permitted inside. The troopers really look at each side of the shelter to ensure safety efforts are all together, while Imprint and Fran take Sorry to see a specialist, since shrapnel got found out on her shoulder during the getaway. To occupy Sorry from the aggravation, Imprint uncovers he recovered her dad's jewelry from Bogdan and hands it to her. He additionally poses her more inquiries about her dad and what he had some awareness of the phantoms. Yet Sorry just realizes that he made clay compartments for Masarov, the power plant the apparitions come from. At that point, a noisy bang reverberates outside, yet it isn't the foe. It's Orland, who has shown up with a couple of individuals that endure the assault on the base, carrying with them as much stuff as possible. Orland fills them in regarding the assault coming from undetectable individuals and how just 19 of them may do. The getaway was finished in such a rush that they couldn't contact their bosses to request help, so there's no arrangement other than sustaining the shelter and pausing. A contention results among the warriors since some of them believe should accomplish something. However, the others think it isn't worth the effort. Mark unexpectedly hinders them when he at long last assembles every one of the hints and acknowledges what the apparitions are. Comstick concealed under the tub, which is made of fired, and the apparitions couldn't contact the artistic pieces of the tanks by the same token. Being wounded by iron, being cold to the point that it'll kill you, and being skilled to go through walls yet not fired, shows this is an instance of Bose-Einstein condensate, a condition of issue that was anticipated by Nath Bose and Albert Einstein. Making such a state needs a great deal of force, which makes sense of the reality the phantoms come from the Masarov power plant. This is most certainly a weapon that was set free by the foe. Assuming somebody made them, it likewise implies they can be separated. Mark recalls the development he completed prior to coming here, which ought to have the option to raise a ruckus around town with plasmic release, and proposes to fabricate a lot of them, utilizing all the stuff they brought from the base and any hardware they can track down in the dugout. The officers quickly start searching for every one of the pieces that can be valuable, and Imprint truly gets serious, assembling however many weapons as he can. Among the stuff they brought from the base, they find a robot they called a mechanical Rottweiler, and they use it to introduce another searchlight. They likewise take a gander at a guide of the city, and with the data Fran assembles from local people, they make an arrangement to travel to the power plant through the most secure course. After Orland gives the group an uplifting discourse, they leave for the power plant, with the Rottweiler illuminating the power plant's foundation. The main gathering of troopers tests the new weapons on a few approaching specters. Imprint's development works superbly, and whenever they have affirmed the primary crowd of phantoms is annihilated, the other two gatherings leave the helicopters also. Presently every stage has been impeded. The troopers focus on battling the apparitions that continue to come, while the helicopter flies ahead to drop Imprint, Fran, and two watchmen inside the plant. The gathering is gone after by phantoms when they enter, so they choose to separate. The officers stay to battle, while Imprint and Fran search for the lab as quick as could really be expected, since the warriors outside don't be aware for how long they'll have the option to hang on. The pair goes over a defensively covered entryway, and when Fran hacks the lock, they at last gain admittance to the principal lab, where they find the researchers are dead. There are X-beams that show they've been examining people on a subatomic level, and afterward, they would utilize an exceptional 3D printer to imitate them in condensate structure. There's an entire sequential construction system, affirming this is a weapon. Looking further into the lab, Imprint and Fran find many apparitions lock inside cells. A big part of these are broken, and that implies some mishap make a lot of specters escape, and the researchers couldn't stop them. There's a machine with a crisis closure strategy, however it has loads of specialized terms that Fran will require a few minutes to decipher. In the meantime outside, the warriors notice the most recent specters are equipped for assembling themselves back, making them extra difficult to battle, meaning a few men are beginning to bite the dust. Fran figures out how to sort out that they need to open every one of the ports, and afterward pull a section to deliver the links. This ought to kill every one of the phantoms simultaneously. Mark jumps on top of the machine, while Fran takes shots at the apparitions that get away from their cells, fully intent on halting Imprint. Outside, a hurricane of ghost force is framing, pushing the troopers back. One man attempts to take shots at its middle simultaneously. Imprint polishes pulling off the links in the section, causing a shock wave that makes Imprint tumble off the machine and sends the warriors outside flying. Every one of the specters start to break down, and the troopers can't resist the urge to see the aggravation on their straightforward countenances as they vanish. Fran goes to mind Imprint, and presently they're on a lower floor, They hear a commotion coming from a secret room. Inside, they're upset to find the minds and fringe sensory systems of genuine people inside containers. In light of the fact that the researchers hadn't recently been checking individuals, they were utilizing them to make and control the phantoms. They aren't dead, however they aren't genuinely alive either. Yet Imprint can perceive they're in torment. So he starts disengaging them to bring them harmony. Fran needs to stop him, saying he ought to ponder the master plan. Yet Imprint calls attention to that the master plan is exactly doing this. Now that the phantoms are gone, the American armed force can send individuals to save the group and carry them to another base. Anyway, a couple of days pass before the fighters are going out again on the grounds that the public authority believes them should recover the machines from the power plant to figure out them and track down their insider facts. Mark expresses farewell to Orland and Fran, and Sari says thanks to him in English before he loads onto a plane to fly back to the States.